At least I think we are.
Okay. Yeah, you're
live. We're live.
Wow. All right. This is good. This is a good start to a live stream. It's actually being live on the internet. Who are we? We are Earth's Mightiest Critics. And this is Wednesday Night Live. That's night with a K, because we're talking about Moon Knight, episode 2, which premiered earlier today on Disney Plus. And I'm pleased to welcome back a lovely and talented panel of fellow critics and die-hard Marvel fans, each and every one of us.
Do not, don't you dare, sir.
All right, so I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. Our Marvel shill, that's Will, Summon the Will, love it. Will Johnson from the Cinephile Hissy Fit podcast. We have Annie Banks of Chuckload of Comics and Movie Web. And we have Mark the Moonman Krawczyk representing the DC side of things.
He's Mark with the C today.
I am.
Yes.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even pick up on that.
I just saw that like a few seconds ago, and I was like, oh, here we go.
Wow.
Ian, we gotta step up our game. I feel a little left in the dust here.
Look, I'm having trouble grappling with the idea of doing back-to-back live streams tonight because yes, folks, you're tuning in to watch Wednesday Night Live, but at 9 p.m. Central, an hour from now, a little less, it might just be me, but someone will be talking about Morbius.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Film.
I'll be there, but don't ask me to explain it.
Yeah, I feel like
good luck.
I feel like the break between shows is just going to be everyone turning off their cameras as they gather their socks full of quarters to get back here and beat the crap out of me for actually somewhat defending Morbius.
I'm with you, brother.
We'll see.
I'm on your team.
I'm not talking ironically, though, Will.
I'm not either.
He's not either.
No. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Well, we will talk definitely. But for right now, and Annie, I'm prepared to talk to you about that dance because I know you're confused.
I still. We'll get back to it because I'm not disgusted by it. That's the thing. I thought I was going to be disgusted. You know, when he fucking morbed all over those guys and said it's Morbin time? Yeah, me too. But...
all right. Stay tuned, everybody, for more wonderful insights like that. But right now we're going to talk about Moon Knight episode 2. I am pretty much at the same place at the end of episode 2 as I was at the end of episode 1, which is why am I watching this? Now I know, Will, you took exception to my calling episode 1 lackluster, and I'll admit I did call it lackluster in a tweet announcing something or other related, probably this live stream, saying, will this episode eclipse the lackluster debut? It was just in the sake of a pun, but I also thought it was lackluster. Now, I will say thanks to Mr. David Fowley, who last week showed this graphic novel on air, and I have since come into possession of it. This is a Moon Knight collection written by Lemire and drawn by Smallwood and Belair, I think. This, from what I've been told, is kind of the source material for the Moon Knight TV series. Not the 1980 comic run that I had invested in pouring through, which I'm reading both of these at the same time. Very strange experience. But the first thing I want to ask the group, has anybody else read these particular comics that are sort of set in the modern day, I guess, sort of continuity that's influencing this particular series?
I started reading them today.
Okay.
I started because I've seen a few panels on my own Twitter feed, and it just the art is really neat. The way that Khonshu and Mark interact is really, really cool. I really like the tone and the atmosphere of these books. And I've seen so many people push it. I mean, David pushed it last week, and it kind of stuck in my head. I was like, I got to get around to this if I have the time. And I was given the time today, and I got into it, and it's really well done. I'm really, really liking this run.
Me too. I'm just about to start issue 5. Okay. And we will talk about the actual show. This is sort of my gateway into my problem with the show. Famously, Moon Knight shows up in the last 10 seconds of his own debut episode. Before that, it's all Oscar Isaac kind of running around as himself with this, goofy British accent. Has that whatchamacallit, the
Wait, are
one
you sure? Are you sure you're not talking about episode 2? Just kidding.
Well, we'll get back to that, sir.
Hey, Mark, tell me the difference between episode 1 and episode 2.
Moon Knight had 3 minutes of screen time.
Oh, got me.
And you know what? Honestly, it became a joke because structurally they line up almost perfectly. You've got about 45 minutes in episode 2 until Moon Knight shows up, and then you've got Stephen Grant and he's got his friend Layla being pursued by a CGI monster. They barricade themselves in a room. The mirror version of Mark is yelling at him and urging him to transform into Moon Knight, and then he transforms into Moon Knight. So I should probably put this thing on. I'm glad this is a video podcast, so people don't think I'm doing something else. But yeah, we are talking.
Moon Knight is in this episode.
Yes. What's that?
You know who Layla is, right? Did they get
No.
No. Okay.
No. I did no. But the thing is, reading these comics has almost made me appreciate the show even less, because not being familiar with this incarnation of Moon Knight that's in this collection that we're reading, from page 1, I was hooked, even though there was a great deal of mystery. The structure was all there. The first issue is a storyboard for a fantastic 30-minute pilot. And yet they decide to discard all of that and go in this other goofy direction. It just feels like one of those things where they hire someone to write a TV show, and because they feel like, well, they're paying me $1 million to write this show, or 500,000, whatever they're paying them, I got to put in some kind of work. I can't just turn in a comic book that someone else wrote. I'm going to put my own stamp on it. No, don't put your own stamp on it. Go with what works. And that's what, as I'm watching episode 2, I'm like, this isn't as good as issue 2. It's not as good as issue 3. Issue 4, maybe, because it kind of gets a little bit daffy. But I'm going to stop talking now and hand it over. Will, I can see you're boiling under that T-shirt. And not for the usual reasons, not for the burning passion of your love for me. Tell me about this disdain you've got for my opinion of Moon Knight.
No disdain. I get it. I've had a kind of an interesting experience watching these 2 episodes because I watched the first episode again because I enjoyed it. I wanted to watch it again. And I watched it with my dad, and he's not into Marvel at all. He's like, I don't get this Marvel stuff. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So I showed it to him.
My tea to sip here.
Yeah, he was very. He liked Shang-Chi though, and he really enjoyed Moon Knight. So I got to kind of see it through the eyes of maybe someone who has no idea what Moon Knight is. My Moon Knight experience is a little bit limited. I've seen it a little bit. There was a little bit of Moon Knight action in my Spider-Man reading days, like when he wasn't quite as deep of a character. And then, like I said, I read the Charlie Houston run, which is a little bit more Marvel Max kind of stuff. Like in the mid 2000s, but so I don't have like a strong feeling for the character, and I don't have I'm not as well read with the Moon Knight comics, so I don't think I'm as held on to it as maybe you are experiencing now by reading it. What I really liked, I mean, I see what you're saying about the structure kind of being the same. I've never been necessarily a fan of the iconography of superheroes anyway. I've always liked the characters first. And what I really liked about this episode, and the reason why I think it stands above even the first episode, is because I like the idea of manipulation being played in this episode. You've got Ethan Hawke, who's so freaking good at everything he does anyway, but he's so good that even when you know that he is an evil person, there's moments where you're kind of like, this might not be so bad if I was hanging out with Ethan Hawke. Like, you actually buy it for a few minutes, you know what I mean? And that's he based his performance on cult leaders, and that is what happens. People get enchanted with cult leaders. But I also like the fact that Stephen and Mark have this interplay, and I also found a kind of tragic sadness of Stephen, who we've kind of, well, whether you love him or not, I think it's fantastic. I don't mind the accent. I think he's a really fun character. There's kind of a tragic element of him being stuck where Mark was stuck, Like, he's like, I'm in pain. I'm stuck in this mirror. Help me. What am I doing? Like, I really like that push and pull. And I also like the fact that Khonshu is not the greatest. He has good intentions, but he's not the greatest character in the world. A lot of manipulation, a lot of people playing with stuff. And so I thought it was a really brilliantly written episode and directed really well. And my last thought is that it's the second thing I saw in a row next to Morbius where they play with the hallway thing with the lights that only come on for like a section. You know what I'm
If I
talking about?
never see that trope again, that is like a horror. That's in every horror movie between like 2000 and 2015.
Yeah. But I was just,
And now it's in Disney.
Since I had seen Morbius like 15 hours prior to this Moon Knight episode, they started to blend together in my head because it was the same gimmick. It was the long hallway with something floating around in the background, and then the lights only turning on every 4 feet or whatever. But I don't know. I thought it was really well directed, and I thought the script was subtly well done, in my opinion.
I'll give you that. The scene between Stephen Grant and Ethan Hawke's character. What is his name? I just keep thinking of Ethan Hawke.
Harrow. I think it's
Arthur Harrow.
Arthur Harrow. Yeah.
Arthur Harrow. Okay. The scene towards the end where Harrow is kind of walking Stephen Grant through this neighborhood that he's sort of helped, through the magic of, or the guidance of Amit, has reformed from this kind of a rundown slum to this sort of utopia. They've got like gardens and stuff, and everyone's like learning 3 languages and all that. They sit down to have a conversation about, their gods and the motives of these gods and the morality of prejudgment. We find out that Harrow used to be the Stephen Grant in terms of Khonshu. He was Khonshu's fist of vengeance, and then something which I'm sure we'll find out later led to that not being the case anymore. That was fascinating stuff. And in this scene, I really liked Oscar Isaac's accent. I think it's because here's the contrast. You can see it earlier on in the episode where Oscar Isaac is doing a scene with the security guard, and it's sort of a comedy scene of like going back to watch the security footage. You can tell an authentic Brit doing like a comedic kind of a character, whereas you can tell an American actor trying to do a comedic British accent. There's no naturalism to it. It just feels like a bit. Oh, wait, we're going to scrub past this one. No, it just doesn't at all work, much like my accent there. But no, I really like that scene. I thought the action scene, when we finally see Moon Knight, it's a little bit different because it's the Mark Spector in the suit, which was kind of a nice surprise. And I do agree with Will. I liked when we saw Stephen kind of trapped in that mirror dimension, looking out at Mark and kind of saying it's cold here and I can't move. It's a level of imagination that I wish they would apply to the rest of the story in these 2 episodes. Frankly, I've talked long enough. Mark, what did you think?
Oh, sure, pick me. I enjoyed more of this than I think the first episode. I not knowing anything about Moon. I mean, I'm even more out of the water than any of you. I liked it better in this one. I think the last half of this episode was far stronger than the first half. Mm-hmm. The first half felt a little bit like we were still stuck in episode 1 of sort. We did that, just like I said last episode. We've done all that. Let's move on, and we finally get into it when we meet Layla. And and especially from when he meets Ethan Hawke, I will say the strongest element right now for me in this whole series is Ethan Hawke. I could watch a series watching his character pull the strings and everything, because Ethan is killing this role for a TV show, especially a limited series. I don't see Ethan Hawke. I see Harrow. And the minute he meets him and how he's calm and how he knows everything, but and Harrow knows more than, Steven knows, he's just gaslighting him to try to get him what he wants. That's the way they set it up. And the way, as charismatic as Ethan's character is, you do just for a glimpse go, maybe he's not that bad. I mean, he's talking about an area where he's, made them all cult members, but by making them all cult members, they've cleaned up crime. People have their doors unlocked. They have, sidewalk gardens. People are sharing food. It's like, don't pay any attention to the folks watching the dolphin video over and over and over again. You don't pay attention to that at all. But, I liked the second half of this episode quite a bit because we were getting some meat. We were getting stuff that was happening, moving the plot along a little more. They weren't just pushing the whole Steven doesn't know what's going on. We're actually getting a little bit of answers. And we see more of Mark, which is what I kind of wanted to see as well. So, we see more of those elements. And I love the idea that his god isn't exactly a nice one either, because I'm a big fan of the God of War movie games. I've played them many times, and none of the gods are good people. In some level, they've done stuff because they're gods. And I like when they portray gods like that, to where there's a gray area with them more so than this is the good god and this is the bad god. So yeah, I mean, it finished. This one made me really look forward to possibly seeing where they're going to go with the next episode. Because they visit Tatooine again. So Tatooine, excuse me. So with Pyramid.
Here's the thing: is that last shot with the quote unquote big reveal of, is it Mark by that point or Steven?
It's Mark, because he's
Mark.
Yeah, you could tell
Right.
the way he's
I can't tell because I was bored. But he gets up and he opens the curtains and oh my God, we're in Egypt. Which, who could have seen that? Is this series written for like 12-year-olds and people who've never like actually seen movies before?
I've never seen a movie before, so
No.
that's really cool that they're showing me that.
I know that you're saying that in jest.
You're right,
but
for Movie Web.
I'm a fake and a fraud.
No, I know you say that in jest, but like I said, like I think Moon Knight is so obscure of a character that they're pulling out of their roster. And like I said, having watched it with someone who knows nothing about Marvel, yeah, I could see some of the beats, but I do think that they are placating to a more general audience with this one than maybe hardcore. Like, unlike the Hawkeye series, which I think was I thought that was more a tribute to the fans of the character than like appealing to a wide base of people. This, I think, is saying, like, let's try to get people to believe a dude called Moon Knight in the first place. So I do think when you say 12-year-olds and people who don't watch movies, I would say people that are not familiar with this template of storytelling. I totally would agree with that. Not in a negative way.
But I don't exactly know who those people are at this point, because we've had, 15 years or whatever of comic book movies that have these kind of fantastical worlds, and some of them are tropier than others. But my point is, I'm going to go back to this graphic novel that I'm reading, the newer Moonlight collection. There is a grand reveal at the end of issue 1 or 2. If this is influential to the series we're watching now, then what I'm saying may be kind of a future spoiler. I don't know, because I didn't watch the first 4 episodes and kind of watching, week by week. There's a bunch of characters are trapped in an asylum, and they make an escape. And when they come out, they think they're in like this New York asylum. They come out and it's nighttime, and it is New York, but there's sand everywhere and there are pyramids on the horizon. And you're like, where the hell are we even? And it's one of those great kind of comic panel reveals where at the end of the one page, you see the door open and a character kind of looks out, and then they look up and like, and then the next page is like a giant splash. And then it's like, if I were reading this month to 1 month, I'd be like, I have to see what the hell is going on. Whereas this show, when he opens up the curtains, especially because Khonshu telegraphed it, Mark was like, so where are we going next? And like, where the hell do you think we're going? Egypt. But it's like, 3 minutes of like, oh, woke up, I'm chained to the bed. Well, no, I shouldn't be doing the British accent. Oh, woke up, I'm chained to the bed. I'm going to go open this window. Oh, look, there are pyramids. And then what's going to happen next week? So, yeah.
You bring up a really interesting point, though, with your predictions, because I said it last week, where that end of episode 4 is really going to screw with you guys. And I'm so excited for what your reactions to it are, because like that moment in the comic book, which without saying too much will generate a very similar reaction, I think that this is very broken down to spoon feeding an audience. If anything, it's giving poor Oscar Isaac flashbacks to his days Apocalypse in the X-Men series.
Oh God! Flashback to my. Why did you have to remind me of that?
Why'd you have to?
But I'm right.
Well, I'm, Annie, all kidding aside, I would think that'd be amazing, though, if he encountered his Oscar Isaac Apocalypse self.
That I would like to see that show up.
But I'm encouraged to hear you say that, because I'm assuming, and you don't have to tell me. Please don't tell me,
I'm
because
not going to say anything.
we are in spoilers, but I don't want to get spoiled myself.
No, I'm not going to
which
say
is
anything.
hypocritical. But I assume that there's going to be. You said that there's a moment like that moment in the comics, but it's not the moment from the comics. So I'm assuming that they're going to stray in ways that are just as fascinating, but not necessarily married to that storyline. Speaking of married, here comes my better half, Mike Crowley of YPA Reviews. I don't even know. I got to work on my transitions.
Wow.
Where are you? Oh, okay.
It's supposed to be Galway Bay.
Well, no, from
Set in progress.
because you're the really small kind of thumbnail. It looked like you were in like a Ukrainian bunker, like that had just been bombed or
It's a hat,
something.
does it? Yeah.
No, so I'm glad you're okay, and I'm glad you could join us, Mike.
Glad to be here.
Before we get to the comments, because we have many, and spoiler alert, most of them are from Sujiwa, which I love to see.
Oh god.
Hey. Mike, what did you think of Moon Knight episode 2?
I forgot what happened in it, Mosan. Quite honestly, like it wasn't very memorable. Like until, well, I mean, I can't give it away, but we saw like the first.
We're in spoilers. We're in. Oh yeah, don't give away future.
No.
stuff.
But like, it's not until like the tail end of the 4th episode that like the show really got interesting. Like from what I vaguely remember.
Jeez, that sounds familiar. I wonder who said that.
No, it's because
Mike was watching. Mike was watching the
live.
live stream before and decided to cut in just so he could repeat what you had said, Annie.
Oh, really?
No,
Did you
no.
literally just say the exact same thing?
Yeah, she
I thought
did.
you were
Yeah.
talking about the comment section, like the private.
No,
words
she
from way
literally said the exact same words.
earlier. Really? Yeah, I don't. Was that the one where he? Wait, can we talk about? I don't know if it's.
I'm not going to ruin it for them. I would like to see the
All
general.
right,
like,
they
I wanna-
introduced a character who looks a lot like Rachel Weisz from The Mummy, and I don't know if that was by coincidence or not. Like the actress looks so much like her. I'm like, okay, I get it. You're in Egypt, but yeah, this is way less Batman, much more like Prince of Persia, which that's on the marketing's fault.
Well, now you
Prince
just
of
made,
Persia.
you just made me want to watch The Mummy again. Thanks.
I'm with Mike on this. I got through that. I watching this episode. I'm like, oh my god, I am watching Indiana Jones in The Mummy.
Yeah,
At
It's-
some weird, dumbed down, like watered down knockoff.
yeah, it's like Indiana Jones and the Boring Crusade.
But well, let me ask you, Mike, because I think the highlight of the episode for us, we were talking about this before the episode 4 stuff. What did you make of the whole Ethan Hawke, Oscar Isaac kind of reporter in that crucial scene where they're sort of talking about the philosophy of their deities?
I liked how Ethan Hawke keeps monologuing in the show. He kind of looks like he's having a lot of fun with it. You know, he's kind of putting on this baritone, sort of aged bad guy voice as he hobbles around on his cane. And if I'm to vaguely remember what he said, he basically said, we're trying to get rid of all the people in the world who are bad. You know, basically like the same thing Thanos did, where it's like, okay, well, I don't like half the population. He obviously didn't go through like kind of a background check that Ethan Hawke did. You know, like where he's like seeing if you ever get a scarabs on your arm, if it turns into daggers and it kills you or not, which was way easier to see like in the non-critic version where like my email wasn't blocking what was happening on the screen.
I have to go back then because I only watched the critic version where I saw my name.
Yeah.
For
You
4
are the
hours.
star of the show.
4 hours. Yeah, 4 hours
It
of
was-
looking at my watermark.
Yeah, it was dedicated to us exclusively.
After we signed that NDA that nobody advised about.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that's the movie they made in between Infinity War and before Infinity War was Thanos sitting at a desk going through. Nope.
Yeah.
No. That's a maybe. That's a maybe.
It's a Thanos clause. But no, it's funny because we were talking about this whole village or this neighborhood that Harrow has under his influence.
Mm-hmm.
It really is control. We don't really see that now. Maybe we'll see that later. But I keep thinking of that Twilight Zone episode, The Good Life, where there's that town and there's a little boy, Anthony, who can wish people away into the cornfield if they have bad thoughts.
Yeah.
That's sort of like everyone's in this sort of utopian state, but you wonder how much of it is kind of learned, not helplessness, but they've learned to tamp down any negative emotions because they know that if they commit any kind of a crime, which could be as minor as a negative thought, then something horrible is going to happen to them.
And I'm impressed, but I would actually be impressed.
Thank you. Oh,
no,
sorry.
no, you bring up a good point, and it goes back to last week to where I was admittedly dumb and confused about where in the timeline this series is. If it is since it is after the blip, they don't address it, but underneath, now that you mentioned it, I'm thinking it'd be very easy for a man like him to start to developing followers, especially after the blip with so many people lost, and talking about crime, because I'm sure, half of everything, including law enforcement and anybody who keeps control, was gone as well. There's probably mass chaos, and he was an individual. It makes sense, because I was wondering, wow, he really built up a lot of these followers. Where the hell did these guys come from? It's one of those kind of
same
questions.
thing with Falcon and the Winter Soldier with the
Flag Smashers.
With the Flag Smashers, how they that one even was directly referencing the blip, but still, it makes sense that over a certain amount of time, these disenfranchised people perhaps can accumulate.
Now, do we kind of like a minor villain in a way compared to like this? It's interesting how these MCU TV series are bringing in more like smaller. Yeah, I know Amit is a god and this, that, the other thing, but it doesn't feel like an omnipotent threat compared to Thanos or Ultron or anything else that we've seen through these huge cinematic scale films. Where these can be cinematic scale, they really want them to be, but we see these more street level villains, even with Kingpin, even with the Tracksuit Mafia. It's very condensed. Where this is very condensed to Harrow and his following. Where this really isn't a global issue. It's him and his community.
Yeah, Agatha Harkness is a pretty
Agatha
small
Harkness, right? Yeah, she's very.
I think the only one they've brought up that is going to have future influence is Kang, but I mean that's way down the line at this point from Loki. But that's it.
Well, if I had to guess, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but don't tell me why I'm wrong, because I haven't seen the first 4 episodes. But I feel, and part of this is because Mark and I just talked about Blade last night, the '98 Wesley Snipes movie.
Where he went open his eyes and they had to CG him on instead.
What's that?
You never heard about that?
Wait, what?
In one of the Blade movies, Wesley Snipes was so hard to work with. He and the director were beefing.
Oh yeah.
No, Trinity.
The third one.
They were
Okay.
beefing so hard, and there was a scene where he had to open his eyes and he refused to. So they went and added it on.
Yeah, that's right. In Trinity, they did it. Yeah.
Wow. But
you only talk to the director and post-it notes in that movie. It's insane. But anyway,
that's that too.
Yeah.
He signed it from Blade.
Yeah.
I definitely have to learn more about that movie now. Thank you. Will, you had suggested that last night, and I got homework to do. But no, what I'm saying is I feel like the first 4, probably 5 episodes is going to be, Moon Knight and his various personae dealing with Ethan Hawke. And then at the end, because we kind of got a glimpse of this in episode 2, where the ground opens up and there's like purple light and stuff. And then you see this mysterious mummified, looks like a woman's hand reaching up and clutching the stone of the sidewalk.
Yeah, that was
I have
the
a feeling.
jackal.
Huh? Was that the jackal?
That was the jackal. He was summoning the jackal.
It was Bruce Willis as the jackal.
Well, no, not that jackal.
Does he just come back up and he doesn't know where he is? Or
wow.
Woo!
That's Marvel Aphasia 4. Anyway, no more disrespect to Bruce Willis. Oh, Jesus. All right, now look. Okay, we're going to get back on track. I did not pick up on... Wait, why did YouTube just go down? No, okay. So I did not pick up on the fact that was the jackal. It was so disconnected because it was just another CGI monster. Thank you for bringing that up. I thought that was Amit manifesting, but my prediction is episode 6. It's going to be Moon Knight versus Harrow is going to be destroyed or possessed and just become this 20-foot tall Egyptian deity and fight Mark Spector in a CGI battle. I'm falling asleep just talking about it, as I'm sure are you. So we're running up on the clock here because, as you all know, in a half hour we're going to be talking about Morbius, or as I like to call it, more BS. So we're going to go to comments. Let's see. So now this is Sajiwa once again pre-gaming. About to watch this up. Better be good, or else what? I mean, what are you gonna? Anyway, don't forget to fly out to Brooklyn on Friday night for the Brooklyn premiere of Slow Romance. Everyone, yes, always. Sajiwa is. We've got the Marvel shill, the DC shill, and the Sajiwa shill. Definitely, everybody. And Sajiwa, I'm sure if you follow him on Twitter, he's got like links and everything to his premiere of the Secret Society for Slow Romance. Definitely check that out on Friday. Watching the show, I'll join when I'm done with it. I see that he already has, so we got to catch up. Watch about 19 minutes. Not crazy about the structure. We talked about that already. It's got the Boba Fett show problem. They are telling the story from the future about the past without doing a linear present story like in Mando show. That's a very astute point. When Mark enters the show, like for full on in this episode, and he kind of takes control, and there's that whole tired struggle that we've had since episode 1 of give me control. I don't want to give me control. Give me control. I don't want to give you control. And finally, we know he's going to take control. I'm like, who is this guy? It's not the character that I've been reading about in either incarnation, really. So I don't know what they're doing, and I don't really care. I feel like they would have benefited from giving us at least a glimpse of this guy before this whole getting trapped in the mirror persona. But that's just me. But let's see what happens later in the show. Petty is back. Good evening. I don't know why Disney is fascinated by bossy people on scooters. Are you also referring to the Power Rangers from the Book of Boba Fett? I wonder. Are those scooters? Are those bikes? I guess. What do we think of? Is it Layla? I liked her. I think that it was kind of fun. Except I couldn't place her accent. I wasn't sure if she was an American doing a poor Irish accent or an Irish person doing the accent of an American who has amnesia.
It was Oscar Isaac dubbing her dialogue.
Mystery solved. All right, lights. That's how lights in storage spaces work. They shut down when no one is affecting the motion sensors. Yes, especially in horror movie warehouses. That's true. It's a good thing to use in horror movies, I think. Yes, it was 20 years ago.
Still used, yeah.
Right, but now it's kind of like the gag in a comedy when someone falls down a hole or a cavern or something. All of a sudden, you just got to wait for it. I'm okay. Yeah. Let's see. Just say no to ancient gods who want to use you as their fist or whatever. Does not sound like a good deal. Yeah, that goes for ancient gods. That goes for people in vans.
They might not have a choice. I think is what they might have implied in this episode. Is maybe they don't have a choice.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Or they do have a choice, and like I don't want to get fried and into a shell of a husk of my former self. So that brings us to the end of comments. Very good stuff. All right, so
here's what I find interesting about this, though, and makes me wonder. I hope they explore it later. Is we've got Mark Spector, who is he's indentured by this god, who says, they've got a deal, and after he's done with them, he'll let him go. Haro was the Avatar. I am curious on what it's evidence then that if you're no longer the Avatar of this god, you don't die because, in fact, you gain a cult following, apparently. Yeah, you know what I mean? Haro there, unless Haro did some kind of other dealing with Ahmet, which isn't explained. I'm just sitting here. I was trying to find a hard idea of, okay, so, if he does choose someone else as your avatar, no, you don't want it to be the wife or the woman you love, obviously, but still, I'm just like, I don't know, you get a cool suit and you get to kick people's ass. I'm like
Well, here's a question. The whole idea of summoning the suit or summoning the will, as we have here tonight, is it painful? I mean, I wonder if there's any kind of like a trade-off, because it doesn't. I don't know if it's like if Mark Spector even wants to wear the suit. It doesn't seem like a cool thing. It almost seems like part of this indentured servitude to Khonshu or something. Am I just reading too much into this?
I will say Steven does look kind of heroic for, not wanting to.
Yeah.
For kind of being a pacifist in a way, like he kind of seems more heroic in that aspect. So that's one good thing about the show.
Well, he does have that sort of superhero origin moment of when you get your powers. It's Tobey Maguire leaping across the rooftops.
Yeah.
It's Michael Morbius leaping across the lab, which we'll get to. Stuff that just makes you want to stand up and cheer when he's in the suit.
Wait.
What? What's going on?
I really wanted. We'll save it for later.
Connection to wanting just. It's like everyone clapping for the most clapworthy moment when the Flash ran.
Yeah. Who can forget that moment?
Remember when we all stood up and cheered?
Hey man, Zack Snyder won the Oscars.
I stood up and cheered when I found out that Warner Brothers is having a very important meeting about the Flash today. That's just where I'm at. I'm sorry, Mark. I'm sorry.
He's in his reverse Flash era. I'm sorry.
Hey, the good news is that whoever Ezra Miller, the new Flash will be Christopher Plummer, so that'll be.
He's gonna be resurrected like a mummy.
Ooh, you don't have to.
They
do CGI now, so you don't have to. You just need a body double and overlay the skin.
Just Peter Cushing him. Yeah.
If that were the case, Will, I would pay all the money in the world to see that movie. Yeah, I'm sorry.
The mummy with.
Nice one.
That's gonna cost you an ear, Ian.
I know. It's late. I'm feeling a little spacey.
He's got his knives out. Right?
It's true.
Stop it, Mark.
All right. So, what the hell were we talking about? Okay, Moon Knight.
That show where a guy does like a chimchimnio accent.
I liked how they established the difference between Steven's Moon Knight and Mark's Moon Knight.
That was cool.
And I think that's a very important element. I'm just predicting, but with the tropes that have come up so far in the first 2 episodes, I can see where they're going to use that as a gimmick at one point where he's in a battle or something and you see the suits jump between the two and you'll know who it is talking that way. So I liked how they worked that into it. And I like the suit actually better. I like the suit, Steven's suit, better than Moon Knight's suit, in all honesty.
Now, do we like that better than having an actual Mr. Knight persona?
I have no idea what Mr. Knight persona is, but for me, I guess visually, I just liked his look better.
It's a really cool look, but in the comics with Mr. Knight, he's another personality.
Okay.
He's another identity. And he is like a philanthropist, he's a philanthropy type guy, and he's the one that funds Mark to buy all the gadgets and buy everything that he uses as Moon Knight.
Oh.
So he's this billionaire, he's this hotshot, he's this and that and the other thing. But it's kind of like the Bruce Wayne to the Batman.
I got you.
Well,
here's so much money. You could beat up a criminal with that, and you're like, yeah, you could. And it's that type of stuff.
And that's we were talking about that last week and a bit this week. Is there have been so many changes to the continuity of the comics and the rearranging of the characters, because what you just described, Annie, was Stephen Grant from the 1980 comic series. He was the Bruce Wayne who was kind of funding everything, and then Mark Spector was the Moon Knight, and we haven't even mentioned Jake Lockley yet, the cab driver. I don't know if he's in this series or what, but no, it's funny. The current Moon Knight monthly series, which I've been reading since last year, is very confusing. I feel like there's probably 2, 3, 12 dozen story arcs between the latest one that I'm reading and the last one that I read. Very confusing, because Mark Spector, Mr. Knight, is running a place called the Midnight Mission, and he's got a vampire secretary, and he's helping the downtrodden.
Comes in?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
This is the new monthly series that's going on right now. And there's another Fist of Khonshu that is it's almost like what's going on in the TV show, except instead of belonging to another god, it's actually someone who, I can't remember why, but Khonshu recruited another person to be like his left fist and Mark's his right, and it was just fisting everywhere. But anyway,
What are
I
you
think
streaming?
I kind of filmed.
I knew
Add
that
the-
was gonna
Add the feet and the fists and
Yeah.
I didn't say
Never
anything
wanna be
about feet.
fisted.
That's disgusting.
Next
No.
season, he's going to be the foot of Khonshu.
Directed by Quentin Tarantino.
I will be the foot of Khonshu any day.
Wow. You're the
Oof.
disease, and I'm the pedicure.
Man.
All right.
No.
I hate my life.
I can smell the show already.
All right. Final, I guess, closing thoughts on Moon Knight. I got to say, I am more excited about episode 3 after having talked to you, fine people, because hopefully everyone will be able to come back next week to talk about episode 3. This is more exciting to me than watching the actual Disney Plus show, but I'm hopeful that it will continue to get better. Annie's got me excited for whatever the hell the mystery box is at the end of episode 4. I just hope getting there isn't going to be an uphill trudge through sand. But I open the floor to y'all. I'm going to shut up.
I'll say that out of all the Disney shows right now from Marvel, this one, fortunately or unfortunately, feels like the most TV show-ish TV show of all of them. In that network, this feels like an actual network TV show. Like if ABC or CBS was going to do it, CW, yeah, I'll say it. I can riff off of CW. If one of them were doing it, it feels more like that than some of the other previous Marvel shows we've got, which felt like serial shows that were slightly less cinematic, but those were ones where if you put them together, you could see them as their own movie. Whereas this one, at least 2 episodes in, I'm putting these together going, okay, so you got about 15 minutes of a movie, really, versus the other ones where in every episode you could put it together and you've got yourself a 2.5 hour, 3 hour movie or 6 hour movie, whatever. But this one, it feels like the most network TV show of all the Marvel TV shows, if that makes any sense. So, it could be just the gateway show. So people who aren't familiar at all with MCU and they want to start off with a Marvel show, maybe start with this because very few people know about it. So you're not going to get a huge buzz online with spoilers or anything or going, oh my God, it's got this character. A lot of people are like, well, and it may be a gateway superhero show. Maybe that's what they're intending to show with it. But I don't know. I'm interested to see where it goes, though.
I will say that's a great observation about this feeling like an ABC. I wouldn't go as far as to say CW because it's mostly like adults, right? And that's I'm not saying it's a criticism. I'm just saying it feels like something you see on like ABC, like
right,
an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. type of spinoff or something. But and this is something I was thinking about while watching the show. This is episode 2. If this were a comic book, Marvel would not put out a comic book like this because but the thing is, the whole point of a monthly comic is to get people to come back and pay at this point $5 for issue 2. Now you've got a Disney Plus subscription, whatever, so you're paying like $10 a month, whatever it is, to get unlimited content. But if you're talking about month to month, you can't have an issue where you've got this guy running around a museum and he's all confused, and in the last page, Moon Knight shows up. And so you might get someone to come back for issue 2, but then in issue 2, you wait, 22 out of 24 pages, and then Moon Knight shows up and there's a fight. And then you're like, maybe I'll come back for 3, but probably not. Maybe I'll wait for the trade. And by the time the trade comes out, I'll flip through it. Nothing looks like it has happened that I haven't read in a dozen other comic books. And they put it down. I feel like Marvel could benefit from taking the monthly issue sales premise, like driving sales forth, if they're going to release this week to week. If it's a bingeable show and you can watch the whole thing in a weekend, I think you can get away with this more. But week to week, I feel like people are just going to tune out because I don't know who's dying to wait till episode 4.
I mean, with that being said, with Kevin Feige being like, this is going to be intense, it's going to be different, it's going to be a horror, it's going to be XYZ, it's going to be this and that. I felt like I was falsely marketed to. I felt like I'm serious.
Yeah,
I wrote about this. I wrote an op-ed about why the show should not be rated TVMA or rated R, because I know that was a hot debate for a minute. And I defended why it's fine as it is, but I think a lot of the content prepping and the prepping in general that they did if you want to sell it as a week by week type beat, like if you're selling a book, a month by month type installation type thing, sure. But I think that a lot of what they're going for isn't transferring as they wanted it to. I think that they use this premise of false marketing and false advertising, where you're picking and choosing these moments where you're getting the last 10 seconds of episode 1, the last 3 minutes of episode 2, the stinger for next week or whatever. It's going to be the highlights of episode 3 and so on. And if you're wading through that and picking through that just to get the meat of the show from these very slim episodic breakdowns, I don't know, and I think with Mike and I having a privilege to see the first 4 hours in advance and really have time to let this marinate with us and resonate with us, however that may be, I didn't know, even as from an early perspective, I was like, do I want to keep going? Do I want to keep binging this? Do I really want to see what happens next? And it does pay off. But like, if I were to get this as a comic book and read it, I will read up to this, and I'd be hesitant about going to issue 3, going to episode 3.
Well, you bring up a great point, Annie, about the violence, and yeah, that's how this was marketed. It almost feels like a coincidence that Disney yanked all of the Punisher and the Daredevil and all the hardcore Netflix shows, kind of put them in limbo right before Moon Knight came out. Now I know you can watch these things now, but it felt like almost like an attempt to fool people into thinking this is gonna be a hardcore Marvel show, and not allow them to go back and remember what a real hardcore Marvel show looked like an actual rated R MA, Punisher turning people into hamburger, or Matt Murdock getting the crap beat him out of in a hallway by 30 henchmen. This thing is
great
G compared to that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, didn't they just pull the tribute to Stan Lee for the end of the Punisher?
I had heard something about that. I didn't
go back and click on it. It could be them mining clicks. You know what I mean? Coming from an SEO perspective, that could be them like, hey, we got you. Got your click. We got your engagement. We're in your algorithm now. You want to see more on Disney Plus? I'm serious. It's
right, yeah.
No,
it is.
I understand.
It's really upsetting if that's the tactic they have to use to get people to engage with the Punisher on Disney Plus.
Well, that's the thing is, I don't know. I heard something about they removed a tribute to Stan Lee. I wonder how much of that, like you said, Annie, could be clickbait versus how much it could have been the Stan Lee estate working out something we want to control wherever his appearance is. We don't want him showing up at the end of the Punisher, or some kind of a weird rights thing. I have no idea.
I mean, it was just a text. It was in honor of Stan Lee. So he wasn't physically...
But it was his name. They own his name.
That's right.
Yeah.
May I end my portion on a more positive note?
Please.
No.
Am I allowed?
Sorry. No, please.
Okay. Now I'm going to get on as I always do, I'm going to get on my Marvel soapbox here for a minute, and I promise it's all related to Moon Knight, so just give me a second.
All right.
Okay. Now,
Preach.
The reason why I have faith in this show. Now, I've seen some because Marvel is so ubiquitous with a lot of entertainment now, it's blamed for the end of cinema. It's, I've seen articles of people saying oh, well, the actors just have to do their Marvel tour of duty. There's no possible way these actors want to do this stuff. And I'm sure there's a couple of actors out there who want that paycheck. I get it, but I treat the material as art. I do believe that people are drawn to this material.
Yeah.
The reason why I have faith in this show and I'm going for it is because of Ethan Hawke. Because Ethan Hawke is not someone who plays the press game, and so he says what's on his mind. He's been anti-Marvel in the past, but he's also said he read something that responded to him in this role. Not only is he acting the hell out of it, but I am, and maybe it is lip service, but I've never known him in interviews to hold back about his opinions. And for him to be in this show is what gives me hope for the show in the future, because he is saying, I connect with this character. And I feel like if you can get an artist like him to connect with this material, there's got to be something there. There's got to be there. So I've enjoyed the first 2 episodes. I can see all your arguments of why it's certainly not as wonderful as some of these other shows, or maybe not as adventurous. I've enjoyed myself, but I'm also a shill. But I am going to hold on to that faith that Ethan Hawke joined this project, joined the Marvel crew. I don't think he would do it for the money. I think that he did it because of the story. And I think that there's something there, and I am looking forward to finding out what that is.
So he's the second cult leader to join the Marvel Universe.
Pretty much,
Who was the first?
And
Jared
Hawke we
Leto.
trust.
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto.
Oh.
Is he a cult leader?
Oh yeah.
It's a real,
Oh, yeah.
real-
Is he? That
Oh,
makes
yeah.
sense.
No,
Actually, I can see
Jared
that.
Leto-
I can see that.
He's got his own island where his followers are there, and wherever he's in concert, his followers will go wherever in the world he's performing his concert. But he's got, if you follow him on Instagram and that, especially during COVID, they had their own island, and he had his own followers and philosophy and everything. Yeah, Jared Leto is like,
They called him a prophet at one point.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how that performance by Hawke kind of mirrors that, kind of
It
mimics
does.
that. And
It
from like
does.
the image that he posts, I'm like, oh my god, this could be a source of inspiration.
Well, it was as well as the I can't remember the leader's name of the Branch Davidians. Does anyone remember the name of the
Oh, David Koresh. Yeah.
David
David
Koresh.
Koresh? He said
Mhm.
David Koresh was his primary inspiration for this character. But I see what you're saying. No, absolutely. I mean, he can mesh them all up together. He's that good of an actor. He can.
Oh, absolutely.
Elements
He's
of
very
everything.
calm and tender and collected, and it's really engaging to see.
I am
Well,
so overdue for a Before Sunset a-thon. I got to see all those.
You've never seen the Before movies?
No, I got to, man.
Oh
I
yeah,
really
check them
need
out.
to.
They're
Oh,
great.
all
Yeah.
three are wonderful.
I think
Yeah.
the only one I haven't seen is the third one. I saw the first two. I had screeners. I got promo tapes for them for when I was in college, so I actually did reviews of them, and I enjoyed them. Though they weren't exactly my wheelhouse, I enjoyed the first two Before films quite a bit. Far better than I thought I was going to.
I'm not sure exactly how many Oscar nominations Hawke has, but I think one or two of them are from writing those movies.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
him and Linklater are like real tight, so like I could see them kind of like fleshing it out together and stuff like that between like actor and director.
sure.
well, I do want to say, Will, thank you for ending that on a positive note. I think that if I had to guess, Hawke resonated with always wanting to have the ability to kill people with magic tattoos. If just taking a stab in the dark here, but no, I agree. I'm interested. My interest is not great, but it is enough to keep coming back for more. Again, as the great Bryan Adams said. But we're gonna go, because in just a few minutes we're gonna be back on another live stream. That's a separate live stream. If you're watching this and you want to join in the fun, quote unquote fun, of watching me defend Morbius, then you can check out the Kicking the Seat YouTube channel. The link will be right there. And yes, I want to thank all my lovely and talented guests tonight. We got Mike Crowley of YPA Reviews. We got Will Johnson of the Cinephile Hissy Fit podcast. Your better half better get on this show one of these days, sir.
Well, he's definitely not going to be at the Morbius. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know. No, Don's like just cranking on stuff, like getting good stuff out. So
I know. He cranks a lot.
Yikes. Mark the Movie Man Krawcheck of the Spoiler Room and Special Mark Productions, Annie Banks of Chuckload of Comics and Movie Web. I am, as always, Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. Thank you all for watching, for commenting. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and check out all my guests' info down in the description. And join us back here a mere 6 minutes or 5.5 minutes from now. Well, not here, but on a different live stream link to watch us talk Morbius. And with that,
Later, Gators.
Is that gonna be like Steven's last line in the movie? Like, light, guys.
Light,
It's gonna be Will's last line on the show.
What if that